Okay. We have a question related to um, instrumentalists. How loud should accompaniment be compared to the singers, especially when there's one singer and maybe five instruments there?
I think everything has to be balanced. There shouldn't be one overpowering the voice or the instrument, because even when you sing at the same time, like there's a lead singer, right? And to be able to hear each of them properly is important. And so also, even as an instrumentalist, to help the singer have a cue, especially for the harmonium, if they could play it at first to cue in the singer, that would be great. So all that is things and elements that are looked during the practice sessions, if that happens.
I'm going to answer it slightly different, and then Rushi and Erwin, you can more than chime in. But I think there has to be an order of operations to how the bhajan sounds. And so when you're looking at a layering piece, that lead voice, has to be far ahead of anybody else. And so the harmonium player and tabla, I think that this is based on noisy accompaniment, the question, right? So I think the answer should be that the harmonium tabla player have to sort of know their place, especially the harmonium guy, and just tune a little bit in terms of listening to the balance. So when you're an accompanist, you have to be listening for the balance. It can't be the mic guy's problem and you're just pushing in. It just sounds chaos, right? So I think knowing the balance is one. And then as a harmonium player or a tabla player, Rushi and Erwin and Janisha plays harmonium can double this, is if someone says, hey, man, I was listening to Bhajans and that harmonium was fantastic, and all I could think about is the harmonium, that's not a compliment in any way. That just means that we've distracted from the whole point of the bhajan. So if they say, hey, you supported well, or I could hear the singer better because you played, or I learned the tune better because it was clear, that's different. But to overpower, this is not showmanship, right? That's not the time. It's the opposite, where we should do our thing, disappear, and then let the bhajan sort of highlight.
Mm-hmm. I will speak more specifically about the audio itself. Like, obviously, lead vocals first. And then double harmonium second in terms of the audio itself. But something that a lot of people sometimes say, hey, I feel tabla is too loud, I feel harmonium is too loud. You go to a tabla player, they'll say it's not loud enough. You go to a harmonium player, they'll say it's not loud enough. Because at the end of the day, it does come down to preference and taste. That said, of course, yes, we want to follow that. But something to keep in mind too, let's say you are someone that has a taste of like, hey, I just want to hear the vocals itself. Mm-hmm. If it's a bhajan session that's going on for like a Khanda bhajan, like a few hours, you also have to understand that the people playing these instruments as well are putting so much energy. And sometimes when the volume is not loud enough, they lose that energy, which in turns drags the entire energy down too. So it is important that we also respect each other and understand like, hey, maybe the tabla just needs to be a little bit louder right now because they're driving that last hour of a Khanda bhajan.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think we can have a whole workshop on its own about how to do sound for bhajans.
Yeah. True. And it's still also like remind yourself that like instrumentalists are to be accompanies, right? Like it's, as we've mentioned earlier, like it should be accompanying like the voice itself, right? So when we were talking about making sure that everything is well like elevated, if not like balanced, that's definitely one thing to note.
And even the singer should keep this in mind, right? If you have a line that's coming up, like if you're singing Buddha Mahavira Yeshu Sai, if you have a high line coming, Gita Veda Quran Ho Sai, if you're having a mic stand or you're holding the mic, try moving away from the mic a little bit so that the sound guy doesn't have to struggle and start, bringing your fader down.
Mm-hmm.
So even as singers, we have to be conscious about how loud our voice is, right? And if you're singing a low line, right, get really close to the mic. Of course, every sound person's biggest pet peeve is when, I actually have a mic right here, right? If you're holding a mic like this, every mic has, if you open up the head, it has a receptor that's right here. So the sound has to be going in this way, right? Not like this. If you're gonna hold the mic like this, it's not gonna capture anything. Especially if you're holding it like this or like this, the mic should be. My thumb rule is about 3 fingers length away from the mouth, like this. That's the ideal length. 3 or 2 fingers. And of course, if you have a lower line, get a little closer. If you have a higher or louder line, move a little bit further away. but you should have that consciousness. And as I just showed you the anatomy of a typical microphone, the reception is always on the top, not at the sides. So please never do this, because it's not going to pick up your sound at all. Always it should be perpendicular to the mouth.
Okay. Next question is on self-confidence and fear. It's a good one. So what if you practice 100 times, but when we get to the center, there's a fear in our mind, a lack of confidence. How do we overcome that?
Did you practice as a group? That would be my question. If you've practiced as a group, then
no, we didn't. I'm scared, man. I'm at the center. I'm scared. I'm not practiced as a group.
No, then you should practice as a group first. No, it happens. I think it happens to everybody, and the focus at that point is, hey, just obviously condition yourself before going into that session. It's like, hey, look, it's a big day. Maybe it's like Akhana Bhajan and it's a regional event. It's a big day, right? Like, and it happens to all of us, even the ones that sing on a regular basis. We all get a little bit, like, our hearts start beating a little faster than the tabla player is playing, like right before the bhajan starts. It happens. And just, I think for me, myself, I take a moment and just look at Swami and just like close my eyes for a couple of seconds and just like control my breathing before I start. And eventually that just gets me into the bhajan.
Yeah, you were just mentioning it, like, thank you, Erwin, but breathing is key. In any situation anyway. It will come back to like recentering like your energy, recentering just your overall like I guess stress or uncertainty or uncomfortness. And that's normal. The body reacts like that. It's normal, and it's there to prepare you and engage you to actually perform, right? Like in terms of whenever you're doing an exam, whenever you're doing something for the first time, like you're driving for the first time on the highway, name it, you're always, the body always comes through those responses. But I think another point key is understanding what would help you basically come through that, like normalize that kind of feeling. Is it to go through the lyrics again with the bhajan coordinator? Is it to listening and recording yourself even more? Is it to actually take time to practice yourself a couple of more times, if not more weeks? Why not? So like check in with yourself. Okay, have I done everything that I need to actually feel comfortable to offer this at the Swami? And during your practices, once we were talking about how your mindset should be when it comes to bhajan offering, and that there's no difference whether you're practicing at home at the center, make sure that you offer always like with the same concept that as if you were presenting at the center. So like your body would automatically just feel like, hey, this is happening and it's true there. So those are just examples and tips, but hey, that I think like a lot of us can share many, I think, because we've all been there.
Yeah.
End of the day, this is not a performance, right? This is why doing sound for bhajans is so unique. Even, singing for bhajans, playing instruments for bhajans, and even from a technology perspective, doing sound for bhajans is very different, because at the end of the day, it's not a performance. The audience is the performer. The only real audience is Swami himself. So if you're feeling nervous about a bhajan, right, end of the day, just remember that at the end of the day, you are singing this for Swami and for Swami alone. He is the only person looking at you when you're singing. And if you've practiced 100 times, guaranteed you won't ever mess up. You'll have the self-confidence. It's just like taking a test. Half the times if I go into an exam and I feel nervous, it's because I haven't studied well enough. But if I've known, I have done my best, right? If you do your best, God will do the rest. So if we do our best, we practice our 100 times, and then Swami just takes over. And at the end of the day, we're singing for him.
Yeah. And a last thing I can add here would be start with very simple things. Don't go into complexity. Like start with a short bhajan or a simple bhajan, a simple tune. That would actually be like, hey, I was able to like feel that, everyone was on board. And actually that will slowly help you build on further for sure.
And the 100 times practicing means that you will get the bhajan perfect. And if you still haven't after 100 bhajans, sit with an instrumentalist, sit with somebody else. At least one extra person being with you will help you. Okay, yeah, there's somebody else listening to me now. Okay, I'll start getting it. Like you'll start putting yourself through that feeling, and you'll get to it eventually. Next question, maybe.
Yeah, the only thing I just want to add one quick thing is maybe just not be as hard on ourselves. Like I think we're all trying the same thing, which is doing our best and stuff. But I think a comment I get a lot of times from our younger brothers and sisters is, "Oh man, I really didn't do a great job on that bhajan." And I find myself repeating that it doesn't matter in that way. Like we've done our practice, we've done our execution. Like we are offering the bhajan first, so that Baba, you're the inspiration, you're the one, you're the executioner, you're the listener, you're the one who receives anything. So I think at that point, it's a good way to learn in our real lives that we shouldn't have any fear, really, And then in the same way that if it just blunders, because the day we feel like it's not, that's the day my voice is going to crack, of course. And on that day, I shouldn't feel so bad, just like I shouldn't feel so great on the days when bhajans are good. That's also Swami's grace. So it doesn't make sense when things go well to say, oh, Baba's grace, and then we think that it's great. But when things don't go well, we also have to remember that's also Swami's grace.